Why do ships vanish in the Bermuda Triangle, but not in your local harbor? Why does the legend claim hundreds of disappearances, yet official records show almost none? And why does a stretch of ocean with some of the world's busiest shipping lanes somehow have a lower accident rate than the Great Lakes? The Bermuda Triangle has terrified travelers and inspired countless documentaries for over 70 years. It's a region where planes allegedly spiral into the ocean without a trace, where entire crews abandon ship for no reason, where compasses spin wildly and reality itself seems to bend. Except none of that is actually true. The real story involves sloppy record-keeping, convenient geography, and one very determined travel writer who knew a good story when he saw one. In 5 minutes, you will understand why the world's most famous danger zone is statistically safer than most bathtubs. Let's start with a basic question. Where exactly is the Bermuda Triangle? The answer is delightfully vague. It's a loosely defined region in the North Atlantic Ocean, roughly bounded by 3 points: southern Florida, the island of Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. Draw lines between those 3 locations, and you get a triangle covering approximately 4,000 square kilometers of open water. Notice the words roughly and loosely defined doing some heavy lifting there. Unlike actual geographic features with surveyed boundaries, the Bermuda Triangle has no official borders. No international maritime organization recognizes it. No navigation chart marks its edges. This elastic geography turns out to be remarkably convenient for storytelling. When a ship disappears 300 kilometers outside the supposed triangle, you can simply redraw the boundaries to include it. When someone points out that a famous disappearance actually happened near the Bahamas, well, the triangle can stretch that way too. One writer placed the western boundary at the Gulf of Mexico. Another extended it past the Azores. The triangle expands and contracts based on narrative need, which should tell you something right there. It's like having a target you can move after the arrow has already landed. This flexibility has allowed the legend to claim incidents across thousands of square kilometers while maintaining the mystique of a specific cursed zone. The Bermuda Triangle didn't exist before the 1950s, which is impressive considering the Atlantic Ocean has been there for a while. The legend crystallized in 1952 when a magazine writer named George X. Sand wrote about what he called a region of mysterious disappearances. But the real architect was Vincent Gaddis, who coined the term Bermuda Triangle in a 1964 article for Argosy magazine, a publication that also featured stories about UFOs and lost civilizations. Gaddis called it the Deadly Bermuda Triangle and the Devil's Triangle, names that definitely wouldn't bias anyone's interpretation. The legend went fully mainstream in 1974 when Charles Berlitz published his book, The Bermuda Triangle, which sold millions of copies worldwide. Berlitz claimed that over 100 ships and planes had vanished in the area under mysterious circumstances, often in good weather with no distress calls. His book featured dramatic accounts of ghost ships found with meals still warm on the table, of pilots reporting strange lights before disappearing forever, of compasses spinning uselessly as vessels entered the zone. It was gripping stuff. It was also, as later researchers discovered, almost entirely fiction. Berlitz had cherry-picked incidents, ignored contrary evidence, fabricated weather conditions, and included disappearances that happened nowhere near the triangle. But by then the story had escaped into the wild, replicated across documentaries, books, and dinner conversations worldwide. But if the famous book was fiction, what about the actual disappearances everyone remembers? Let's examine the incidents that built the legend. The most famous is Flight 19, 5 Navy torpedo bombers that vanished during a training mission in December 1945. According to the legend, experienced pilots flew into perfect weather and simply disappeared, leaving no trace. The reality is messier and more human. The flight leader, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, was filling in last minute and was not familiar with the area. Radio transcripts show he became convinced his compass had malfunctioned and grew increasingly disoriented, mistaking the Florida Keys for the Bahamas. He ignored suggestions to fly west toward land, instead heading farther out to sea. When they finally ran out of fuel, they ditched in the ocean during darkness in rough weather with 5-meter waves. The search plane that disappeared while looking for them? It was a Mariner aircraft known for fuel leaks and in-flight fires. A ship reported seeing an explosion and oil slick at the exact time and location the plane was searching. Then there's the USS Cyclops, a Navy cargo ship with 309 people aboard that vanished in March 1918. Mysterious, right? except the Cyclops was overloaded with heavy manganese or had a history of structural problems, had one engine completely broken, and disappeared during a period of severe storms. Naval investigators concluded it probably broke apart in heavy seas, exactly like dozens of other overloaded ships of that era. The Mary Celeste, often cited as a Bermuda Triangle mystery, was found abandoned in 1872 east of the Azores, over 2,000 kilometers from the triangle. Minor detail. Here's where the legend completely falls apart. The statistics. The Bermuda Triangle is one of the most heavily traveled shipping lanes in the world. Thousands of vessels pass through it every single week, traveling between the United States, the Caribbean, and Europe. Hundreds of flights cross it daily. With that volume of traffic, you would expect accidents. The question is whether the accident rate is higher than elsewhere. It's not. The United States Coast Guard has repeatedly stated that the number of incidents in the Bermuda Triangle is proportional to the volume of traffic in the area covered. When you account for how many ships and planes actually travel through the region, the disappearance rate is completely normal. Compare it to the North Sea, which has similar traffic. The incident rates are virtually identical. Compare it to the Great Lakes, which have calmer weather and shorter distances. The Great Lakes actually have a higher loss rate per vessel mile traveled. A comprehensive review of insurance records by Lloyd's of London found that the Bermuda Triangle is not considered a particularly dangerous area. They don't charge higher premiums for vessels traveling through it. If insurance actuaries, people whose job is calculating risk with cold precision, aren't worried about the Bermuda Triangle, that should tell you something. These are the same folks who will adjust your rate based on your zip code. When comprehensive maritime records are examined, rather than cherry-picked incidents, the pattern disappears entirely. You're left with exactly what you'd expect from any busy stretch of ocean: occasional accidents, proportional to traffic, caused by mundane factors. So if statistics don't support the mystery, what actually causes the incidents that do happen? The Bermuda Triangle sits in an area with perfectly ordinary but powerful natural forces. First, the Gulf Stream, one of the strongest ocean currents on Earth, flows directly through the region at speeds up to 7 kilometers per hour. This current can quickly disperse wreckage, carrying debris hundreds of kilometers away from the actual disaster site. A ship that sinks in the triangle might have its floating debris appear off the coast of Norway 3 weeks later, making the incident seem more mysterious than it actually was. Second, the Caribbean and Western Atlantic experience sudden, violent storms with minimal warning, particularly during hurricane season. These aren't mysterious phenomena, they're meteorology, but they're deadly nonetheless. Waterspouts are common in the area, creating localized hazards for smaller vessels and aircraft. Third, the ocean floor in parts of the triangle features some of the deepest underwater trenches in the Atlantic, including the Puerto Rico Trench, which plunges over 8,000 meters deep. Wreckage that sinks into these trenches is effectively unrecoverable with standard equipment. It's not hidden by supernatural forces, it's simply in water too deep to easily search. Fourth, the area experiences magnetic anomalies where compass readings can vary by several degrees from true north due to the difference between magnetic north and true north. This is well documented, and navigators have accounted for it for centuries. But if you're an inexperienced pilot who doesn't know to check your charts, it can lead to dangerous navigational errors. None of this is mysterious. All of it is documented, measurable, and scientifically understood. So what do actual experts say about the Bermuda Triangle? The United States Coast Guard states flatly that they do not recognize the Bermuda Triangle as a geographic area of specific hazard. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says that no evidence exists of unusual magnetic activity or any other phenomena that would explain disappearances. Scientific organizations that have investigated the legend have found no basis for the claims of mysterious circumstances, attributing all documented incidents to natural phenomena, human error, and in many cases, simple misinterpretation of the facts. The Navy and Air Force have conducted extensive investigations and found nothing anomalous. Yet the legend persists stronger than ever in some corners of the internet. And that's the real mystery here. Not why ships disappear in the Bermuda Triangle, but why we want to believe they do. Pattern-seeking brains, love of mystery, distrust of official explanations, and the simple fact that storm sank ship makes for a boring story while mysterious forces defy explanation gets clicks and sells books. The Bermuda Triangle is a perfect case study in how urban legends work. Take normal events, strip away context, add dramatic narration, and ignore anything that contradicts the narrative. Next time you hear about mysterious disappearances anywhere, Ask yourself what the insurance companies think. They're not romantic, but they're usually right.